Harlequins have been an absolute powerhouse in 9th edition, largely due to their extreme durability, flexibility, and hard-hitting firepower. They've been doing really awesome also in the primary and the secondary, excelling at all types of scoring. So we were really curious to see how they were affected by the surprise January 2021.
I was hoping for a huge nerf.
I know, right? Well, let's see if that happened or not. Okay, so there were only a couple specific changes to the actual faction, right?
Not as much as one might expect. They've been really, really strong, but to be fair, there's lots of really strong factions out there. So just the fact that they've been bullying on Space Marines, someone's got to, you know?
Yeah, exactly, that's right. And some of the units, including things like the Skyweavers, have already kind of, in my opinion, gotten almost as expensive as they can before they become unreasonable for other reasons.
I agree.
So there are no points changes for Harlequins.
Yeah, which I think that's reasonable.
Makes sense. If there were changes, they needed to come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they did. The only specific change to the faction is Player of Twilight.
Yeah, that's right.
This is the Warlord trait that theoretically the way it works out of the book is when you use a stratagem, you roll a dice, and if the result on the dice is equal to the cost of the stratagem, you get that many command points back.
Right. And that's really cool because it's a unique ability to get command points back in a game filled with kind of the same.
Right.
But for some reason in 9th edition, they said no. If you spend a 3 CP strat, roll a 3, you don't get 3 back, you get 1, which is so sad, right? So sad from what it used to be.
Yeah.
And they had it fact, so in 8th edition, you got all your CP back.
Yeah.
But at the start of 9th, they didn't fix it. But now they're getting around to it. They finally said, yes, you can do it. If you roll a 2 on a 2 CP strat, you get your 2 CP back.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, they seemingly made another error while they were doing it. And they didn't block the maximum amount of CP you could regen in a round. Because normally you can only get CP back once per round.
Yeah, which was originally the thing saying that resulted in you only getting 1
Yeah.
regardless, right? What they wanted to do was fix it so that you can get more than 1 per roll, but that can only happen, that can only trigger once per battle round.
But they didn't actually get a clause in there for that. So here's the thing. We know what we all know, you know, we know, we all know what they mean by this. So listen, get your 2 CP back on your one-time strat, but do it once per phase.
Exactly.
Only. They'll get a fact for this in the future. We all know they will.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as slow as the FAQs have been with 9th edition, this one kind of reinforces coming back to this idea of playing the rules as they were intended.
Yeah.
A lot of things were clarified that were kind of similar to this, so just play it as intended.
It's clear. They don't want Harlequins to be the army with infinite CP regen.
No.
That's not like supposed to be part of their thing, right? So, but it's cool. It's good. I'm glad it's a lot of flavor. So I'm happy for that one change. Now that was the only specific change, but there is another one that I'm really happy about. And this affects game-wide, but I think it actually has a big impact on the Harlequins. And they've changed this, it's a complicated concept. It's basically out of phase movement. That's a really complicated way of saying when a unit gets to move again, let's say in the psychic phase, or in the shooting phase, or in the combat phase, Harlequins can do all 3 of those.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? So they get to move again in all of those phases. That's things like Fire and Fade, or it's things like, what's the double moves?
Twilight Pathways.
Twilight Pathways, double move psychic power. And then there's even the ability to move in the combat phase.
Yeah, after they fight.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so all of those, you used to be able to advance as part of those moves. Well, now they're saying, no, you can only make a normal move, which means no advancing.
That's right.
Now, this actually has many implications, positive and negative.
Yes, absolutely. One of the negatives for this faction is the fact that there was a tactic that was used by good Harlequin players such as myself, clearly, where you could use the prismatic blur after advancing to give a unit a 3+ invuln twice. You would do it once in the movement phase, and then you would do it twice after you do Twilight Pathways to move again.
So let's say 2 big units of bikes, or even 2 big 10-man troop units, both with free up invulns. That is a lot of durability. And in fact, in our games, I found it really hard to deal with.
Yeah.
And, well, so hard to deal with that I've never once beaten it, right?
That's right, yeah.
It was such a powerful tactic. So I feel really good about this, but it also means that second unit isn't moving as fast, which matters a lot too, especially for the troops who are a little bit slower than, let's say, the bikes already move pretty fast. But honestly, most of the time, you were taking your full movement and you needed it.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think it's really helpful, and it kind of takes them down a little bit. But they also unblocked something, maybe accidentally.
Right.
Maybe accidentally.
Yeah.
That's something that they didn't allow you to do in 8th edition, but now they're letting you do here.
Yeah, that's right. So previously, after you Fire and Faded, It was a 7-inch move. It was a weird sort of move that wasn't normal or anything. So that's all you could do. Now, however, because it is an actual normal move, this means that you can embark inside of transports.
Yes, that's right.
So you can do some really cheeky stuff where you're jumping out, shooting your fusion pistols, embarking in a transport that's further away. A lot of interesting stuff that I think needs to be explored. Soaring Spite obviously could do a bit of this style before, but now that's going to be unlocked to a certain extent for all of the Harlequin factions.
That's right.
Which is exciting and very, very Harlequin-y.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So go explore that. We don't know if this is intended or not, but because we don't know, play this as the rule as this one is actually written, which means you can do that. And I think we can think of some pretty clever tactics you can do there. So that's a fun little trade-off. I'll take that one over army-wide 3-up invulnerable saves.
Yeah, that's right.
And as you can see, your days are numbered on 3-up invulnerable saves.
Yeah,
the whole game
they're coming for you.
The whole game is losing them. But there's other changes to the base game that are affecting the Harlequins, and this is mostly changes to the secondaries and to the kind of the missions themselves. One of the secondaries in general that was really, really strong for the Harlequins is While We Stand, We Fight.
Yeah, that's right. One of their superpowers is the fact that there are no big high point models really in the army. Everything is pretty cheap, relatively speaking.
The individual models.
Yes, exactly. So one common tactic was to say, okay, I'm going to have While We Stand on my Shadow Seer. You run everything super cheap, and then you can While We Stand with these extreme support characters that are very hard to kill, very flexible, and often not going to be at the front.
That's right.
And so this was a pretty reliable source of points, especially for certain lists. And losing that's a big deal because now, conversely, While We Stand, We Fight is not most expensive models in your army. It's most expensive units.
So it's going to be that troop squad. It's going to be a bike squad. These are things you're absolutely going to lose, and you have to use them. So now, While We Stand, We Fight, in my opinion, is kind of non-viable for this faction anymore.
Right.
So, hey, losing secondaries is tough because secondaries are so hard, as we know.
Sure.
But this one was a little too abusive. There was a handful of armies that could use it to such powerful effect.
Yeah.
Now, there's very few armies that get it good on this one. This is a hard secondary for everybody. There's some that can do some tricks, but they're not great tricks.
Yeah, and I think this is a good change overall for the health of the game.
Agreed.
And even to a certain extent, the health of certain Harlequin characters like the Troop Master. I love me some Twilight Fang.
It always sucks when you put While We Stand, We Fight, and then all your characters just cower.
You have to just hide the whole game.
This frees them to go and flip belt over and start stabbing and having a good time. So it's great. There's another change that unlocks list construction that we really like, and this is Bring It Down. This is the secondary for killing tanks and monsters, vehicles and monsters, and it used to give up a boatload of points, 2 points or 3 points, depending on the wounds of a vehicle.
That's right.
And if you tried to spam a bunch of transports, you could easily hit this number.
Yeah.
Well, now they've taken it down to 1 point for one of these small vehicles.
Yeah, that's right.
And this unlocks those kinds of lists, and now you don't have to worry about giving up points.
It's a huge boon, especially to Soaring Spite lists that traditionally run a lot of Star Weavers, 6, 7 even, which before was 12, 14 points. They're tough, but they're not that tough, right? And so it was really, really juicy, whereas now it's so low, you're never going to be running enough to make this even a worthwhile secondary almost ever, right? And so suddenly, While We Stand, We Fight, our opponents lost one of the juiciest secondaries against many Harlequin lists.
Because Harlequins now give up no secondaries.
There's nothing.
Like a Harlequin list gives up nothing. This was the only thing they even remotely gave up in some lists. So, hey, that's great.
It's great.
Fantastic. There's another one, which is the change to first turn. Now, you wouldn't normally think that this is a big change, but the way it works now is whoever wins the roll has to go first. Before you had choice. Now, why that matters for the Harlequins is because they're one of the few factions that have the ability to redeploy before first turn.
That's right.
Which means the unpredictability of going first is now something they can handle where other factions can't. So it gives you a leg up over the competition.
Yeah, this is a double-bladed sword, really, where you can redeploy all those units. You can also move very quickly. Your opponents don't even get the choice, right? This is one of the big differences is the fact that before you could be forced to go first or second, but neither person has a choice. It's not related at all to what either person wants to do. And so Harlequins can do whatever they want.
Yeah, it's not that this is a buff for you. It's that it adds uncertainty to everyone else except you.
Exactly.
Right? So I think that this is something that the Harlequin army can just take in stride and is going to be really good at. So that's about it, right?
Yeah, the only one, it's a minor one, but it's the last round scoring.
Oh, sure.
Is something I think that's going to become more apparent as we play more of these new missions. The way this works is now, in the 5th battle round, the player who's going second scores their secondary points at the end of their turn, as opposed to the beginning. Now, this has a few implications for the army,
this helps all armies in the game, first of all.
That's true.
But some can take more advantage of it than others.
That's exactly right. One of the things that was difficult at the end, in the previous version of the rules, was the fact that often I don't have many models at the end of my games with Harlequins.
That's right. It's an elite army.
They're very elite. They're kind of trying to play very, very cagey with that. And so if I was going second, the opponent would then be able to just abandon the points, throttle their damage, and often just kill the last remaining assets,
kind of
right?
Like pseudo-table you kind of idea.
Yeah, exactly. But now we can benefit in a number of ways. They cannot throttle their damage. They have to stay and protect objectives. And Harlequins are so maneuverable, so fast, and so flexible that this is going to be a great way to end up scoring 10, even 15 points by just running out, advancing onto
zip
points.
A single character or a bike over here. And often they don't have much OBSEC on a point at the end of the game. You know, it's getting thin. So yeah, that speed, which has always been their #1 strength, is really serves you even better because you get to use that speed on turn 5, where before that speed on turn 5 was meaningless.
Yeah, one of the things that, well, not Harlequins, but Eldar in general has suffered from in 9th edition is the fact that your opponent always easily retaliates before you can score. And so this is a little returning of that previous style that is really, really perfect for these fast, mobile Eldari, especially Harlequin lists. So very excited.
Really nice. Well, that's about it. As you can see, it's kind of, there's a nerf in there. There's a couple buffs in there. Overall, it just unlocked new lists. It gave you more to play with. And it took away one of the most kind of abusive tactics. So overall, what a great change. I feel good about this. Still one of the most powerful factions in the game and a ton of fun to play.
Yeah, very, very excited to see what happens with this. So hopefully you found this video interesting and useful. There was a lot of information that came out of the January 2021 FAQ, and so we wanted to kind of provide it in a streamlined, easy fashion for you Harlequin players specifically, and maybe people who want to fight against Harlequins as well. So let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know if you're going to be changing up your list design, and of course, if you enjoyed it, do like and subscribe, and we'll hope to see you guys very soon on the tabletop.